The Vancouver Canucks suffer a historically embarrassing loss to the Seattle Kraken after blowing a 3-goal lead in the third period, and Rick Tocchet speaks out on Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes' injury, saying that this could be longer than a lot of people want. We're going to break all this down and more later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that subscribed. We're trying to reach 8,000 by January 1st, so make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and we'll keep you up to date on everything to do with the Canucks. But with that, let's just hop straight into the first topic today, which is the Vancouver Canucks blew a lead and lost again in overtime. You can see the stats. They lost 5-4, allowing 3 goals in the final 5 minutes of the game versus the 16-19-2 Seattle Kraken. Looking at this is embarrassing, but it gets even worse when you go into the fact this is the first time the Canucks lost a game in franchise history when leading by 3+ goals with less than 5 minutes left in the third period, and it continues on with the Kraken being the only third team in NHL history to win a regular season game after facing a 3-goal deficit heading into the final minutes of regulation. The other two teams are the San Jose Sharks in 24-25 and the Montreal Canadiens in 2013-14. Just looking at this, Griffin, what was your initial thoughts on this game and how the outcome came?
You said it best. Embarrassing, honestly. We thought we could steal a home win again, hopefully with the bad record we have at home. And unfortunately, they could not deliver coming out of the Christmas break. Maybe they still had some leftovers still sitting in their stomach or something, or it was just that they were depleted without Pettersson and Hughes. But yeah, this loss is a tough one. They had the game in hand. They couldn't seal it, and they ended up choking in ridiculous fashion. That overtime goal is something that's going to haunt Canucks fans at least for the rest of this calendar year until the new year when we can hopefully start to turn things around in 2025. But yeah, this is just a very ugly loss by the Canucks. A lot of lack of accountability afterwards, but we do have to move forward, like they said. But this is going to be something where we played against a horrible team and we couldn't get it done. We had a 3-goal lead without 2 of our 4 superstars, and yet we still ended up choking it. It was a home game. We knew we were probably going to lose this going into it just because we were playing at home and how bad we were at home this year. But it went from bad to worse, and almost from 0 to 60, it went from 0 to 100 as far as how bad it went. It was like watching a car crash where it was just one after another, just pile up, and the Canucks were unfortunately the casualties of it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, the biggest thing was Tyler Myers turning it over in overtime. This was one of the things where I watched the game until the score was 4-1, and I said, hey, the Canucks got this. We don't need to watch it anymore. And of course, this leads straight into a 5-4 loss in overtime. Like I said, this was the first time in franchise history they've ever blown a lead with 5 minutes left, having 3+ goals. This is the third team ever to do this. This is embarrassing and something that a lot of people aren't going to be happy with. Rick Tocchet did speak out after the game saying this one slipped away, this one hurt, but you got to come back tomorrow and have a good practice. This is one of the times that I did kind of wish Rick Tocchet went out and held a bit of accountability for himself, the players, everything in between, the fans paying the money to see this game and watching the team blow it in the third period is an embarrassment for this team. Yes, you're without Quinn Hughes. Yes, you're without Elias Pettersson, which we will touch on shortly. But looking at this, Darius, if they don't come out and they go on a losing streak leading after this, if Quinn Hughes and Payet is out for a bit, do you think changes have to come?
Yeah, I think changes are going to be imminent. I think the biggest silver lining in this is that we do have our next game. We still have a few cracks at the bat heading into the new year. But again, this is something that we have to just wipe away. I agree with you there where it's frustrating what Tocchet said, but at the end of the day, they can't change the score. The game happened. We can't change the outcome. We just have to move forward. So, yeah, it would have been nice to hear him just hold some players accountable, maybe Tyler Myers or something like that. But the loss was already so painful, and for what it meant to this franchise is how embarrassing it really was. So I can kind of give props to Tocchet for kind of holding back a little bit and just realizing, hey, it's going to be a tough room in there because we just lost horribly to a horrible team at home in front of fans that paid a lot of money to be there. Almost like the Patriots fans that were at the football game earlier today. They paid a lot of money and they saw a blowout. A lot of Vancouver fans, they paid a lot of money today and they saw a choke act on full display.
And I mean, looking at this, the biggest thing is, yes, this team is without Petey and Quinn Hughes. This was a quote from Tocchet, and things are just getting worse for the Vancouver Canucks team and fans. As he said, it's hard to speculate. I don't know if it's day to day or week to week. That's why they're going to see their people. Seeing Petey and Quinn Hughes, if they're out for a long period of time, if this is a week to week thing, things are going to get worse for the Canucks. These are two star players for this team. This is, if you want to call it the core four, and I do not want to call it that because we've seen how bad Toronto can be in the playoffs and everything in between. But looking at the Canucks, looking at the fact that Petey and Quinn Hughes could be out for a long period of time just adds to this injury-riddled team that they've been dealing with all year. Going through, Quinn Hughes and Petey have been consistently in this lineup. Seeing two of them out, if it's a long period of time, this is going to be a massive blow to this team. This is a team that's had games without JT Miller. This is a team that just got Thatcher Demko back after quite some time from last playoffs. We've seen Dakota Joshua out of this lineup. You can work your way down. Even someone like Derek Forbert missed a huge part of this year. Hronek is out. Everything in between. Having Petey and Quinn Hughes out, the two leading point scorers for this team. The former Norris winner last year that's looking like he's going to win another Norris. Not having them in the lineup is a massive blow. And just looking at this, Griffen, do you think they can compete and go on a stretch without two of them in the lineup? Or do you think they really need to evaluate if trading for a player is what they need to do?
I think it's a bit of both. I think tonight showed that even without two of their biggest superstars, they were able to kind of dominate the game for the most part. And again, it got away from them at the end. But with the two most consistent players in this lineup being out, and those two players being your two of your four biggest ones, I know we said things about the core four. I've said them in the past, kind of as a shot at Toronto as well. But with these guys, without them in the lineup, it showed that the Canucks, some of them can step up. We've seen some guys step up in this game. So yes, the Canucks do have that next man up mentality because that's what they've had to have all year. Filip Hronek, Derek Forbert, Thatcher Demko, Dakota Joshua, all these players, Filip Hronek, all these players that are out with injuries, and we've had to have guys step up, Max Sasson being one of them. So hopefully we can just kind of catch a different kind of stride as a temporary spot where if we're without Petey and we're without Hughesy for a little bit, hopefully that these guys can hold it down as best as they can so that we can still stay a little bit above 500, but not entirely where we're just completely desperate without them. We need to show that we can play and we can succeed without them. Maybe we can't go toe-to-toe with some of these playoff teams without them, but at least we can take care of the bad teams that we know we should be blowing out of the water. But the biggest silver lining in all of this, Mark, I think, is that at least with coming off of this embarrassing loss, with the Quinn Hughes and the Elias Pettersson news, at least we don't have to hear Elliot Friedman talk about it.
And I mean, looking at this, the biggest worry with me with this team not having Quinn Hughes on the back end. Yes, a lot of these guys are good. Derek Forbert's finally getting his footing in. Carson Soucy minus the turnover, which I do blame on Noah Juleson throwing it out from in the corner. The problem with this is Erik Brannstrom is the only puck-moving defenseman on the back end. Quinn Hughes was the only defenseman that was moving the puck well for the Canucks. We've seen Quinn play what felt like the entirety of every game. They need to do something with this back end. It's either promote Brannstrom, put him up, give him more burn and hope that he doesn't get burnt, or you need to go out and acquire someone that can be a puck-moving defenseman, especially if Quinn Hughes is out for a long, extended period of time. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on this team without Quinn Hughes? What's your thoughts without Elias Pettersson? What's your thoughts on them losing this game to Seattle after blowing a historic lead? Do you think things are going to get worse, or do you think they're finally going to start coming around? Let us know down in the comments. Why down there? Leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffen, and take care.